we're going to have a special presentation. This young gentleman, really love his heart, really love his story, and what he has really done in the community of his, like the technology. You know, when he was a young child, this was something that was in his heart, and he's still doing it today. That's pretty impressive, because usually, you know, you lose that love for something, and that's the exact opposite and the gentleman's name is Joe. So he's going to be able to share a little bit about it. You ready? All right.
All right, so I'm Joe Roherick. I started J Games and Repair mainly from wanting my love for gaming to survive. So it's game development that I wanted to do. And this is kind of my background and a story that led up to that point. And I did whip this together in about an hour or so, so give me a moment here with all this. So a summary of what I wanted to go over today, what I could fit, is the non-zero sum game, which is what I favor, versus a zero-sum game. We'll go over the details in the presentation, but over my beginnings, family dysfunction, it's misspelled on purpose. So decisions, overwhelmed and humble. This I just wanted to go over real quick with the highlighted part, because I think it's funny how each of these things that I wanted to do growing up, I do now in some way, shape, or form. So being a cartoonist, illustrating, I still make art by editing, drawing, and whatnot, animation. Being a director, I think it's so funny that YouTube and streaming have become like commonplace at this point, because that's essentially directing. And then Stagecast creator is the whole game development, is very, very, very early game development. So it's like, if this, then this. So visual scripting, if anything. And yeah, we'll just go from there. So a non-zero sum game is a situation where the total gains or losses of all participants do not add up to zero, meaning it's possible for all parties to win or to lose. Unlike a zero-sum game where one is a definite winner and that makes the other person the loser. Thou art, I think, is play. I think free will, enacted free will, is play in life. So as we grow older, I think we kind of lose that. We kind of get structured in a way to where we're scripted in our talk. I don't know if you guys have seen the TikToks lately of the people that come up to the desk and they say, "Can I get a coffee?" And they spray them with the water. Like, use your manners, like say, "Yes, please," and we're here, we're people. And so I think that goes hand in hand with that. So this is my grandma. She's the one that instilled in me, help everybody and everybody help each other. And that is the most important thing to me. She's my greatest example of unconditional love, or getting the closest to unconditional love and protecting that. This is, I think, conducive right now with where we're at with the economy and with society, is that I think that we're headed towards something that looks like another depression. And I think it was really important to note in the book that I'd read, this is from Think and Grow Rich, and it was published about 100 years ago. So it's a pretty cool book. So the depression is a blessing in disguise. It reduced the whole world to a new starting point that gives birth to new opportunity. And to go further into that, it serves as a mighty protest from an injured public. So who in here feels injured or struggling? I think that's almost everybody in some way, shape, or form. Being trampled upon in every direction by those who are clamoring for individual advantages and profits, I think of the tech industry right away. When the debris of the depression shall have been cleared away, the business shall have been once again restored to balance. Both employers and employees will recognize that they are no longer privileged to drive bargains at the expense of whom they serve. I see this so vividly in the game industry right now, with them just nickel and diming. Like Xbox just did two things specifically, raising their game console prices after they've been out for more than 5 years, and then Game Pass, a subscription service, going up over 50% in a short span of time. So yeah, no longer privileged to drive bargains at the expense of whom they serve. So the real employer of the future will be the public. This will be kept uppermost in mind by every person seeking to market their personal services effectively. My favorite game developer, Hideo Kojima. This is one of my favorite quotes from him. That's why I included it. We need to be thinking of the same vision or it's impossible to get anywhere. I have lots and lots of friends and everybody has great ideas, but we need the discipline and the harmony, and that I'll get into more of that later. Born and bred through concepts of control and chaos. So despite practically being born with a controller in my hands, life was out of control. So here's my mom and my dad. They divorced when I was between 5 and 7. Mom's family was very white collar while my dad's was blue collar. Pretty sure you guys can already tell how it'd be cats and dogs. So I pulled up a couple pictures from a while ago. I thought this one was funny because as I'm born to be a gamer, I've got the controller right there.
That's hilarious.
And I found this one recently. So I was like, all right, well, I still got the work ethic, the blue collar in there. I thought that'd be a great touch.
Good.
So family dysfunction, I misspelled it like this because it's pretty much what they did to me. My dad had a rule at the table. Don't dish out what you can't take. Well, I took a lot, so I dished out a lot, and it wasn't good. It's like playing cutthroat, and it's not fun. So I think the function of family is dysfunction. If you don't have a dysfunctional family, you're not familying right. It's just not right. I grew up with 3 siblings, the 4th being seen every other weekend at my dad's. Both of my older sisters are half-blood siblings, so I guess I just had 3 siblings. This is an older picture of us. You can see how much I loved it. But yeah, my 2 older sisters up here, younger sister and younger brother, so we're all full blood. And this is about 10 years later. Cameron got to join our family. It was my dad's 3rd marriage, I believe. And then this was just this weekend. So just a glimpse of how big my family is and when they want to do something, I don't really have much of a say. It's just join in. So a majority of my happy memories were watching movies or playing games as a family. We could do it civilly and we could have fun. And that's what was important to me. So I think of this when I get into how happy we were as a family and how we could control that chaos in a way. The one who plants trees knowing he will never sit in their shade has at least started to understand the meaning of life. So I'd like to set up, I guess the game lounge would be like the furthest business idea away from what would work by itself. Because how can you charge people to play something that they already have? It's really just an invitation for everybody in isolation to get into the community and feel comfortable, learn the game, learn the rules of the game that we all play called life, and do it in a fun way and try to revitalize the community.
Right.
So this is a bumpy road right here. This is all the different things I wanted to be growing up, which is why I explained the whole highlighted portion. So drawing was the first thing I was known for. My family said, oh, you stick with your drawing, you're going to go places. So I tried to stick with that. It evolved into stuff like this to where I had my computer up here. It's a tablet. It's a drawing tablet. It feels like paper when you draw on it. I loved it. So illustration was the first thing, which led me to, I wanted to be a cartoonist. Because I thought, oh, well, you think of the job where you can do anything, and is it really a job anymore? Or are you just, having fun? So that was my first thought until I seen how you could blend fantasy with reality with Jurassic Park, and that made me want to be a director. And that all changed or evolved when my grandmother had me go to an early college course, and I learned about Stagecast Creator, which is that scripting program to where I don't have to deal with all the words. I can just make the pictures different and then tell everything what to do on the screen. So I essentially just had a character walking across the screen and say, like, as like grass was there, he'd move into the grass and then the grass would have to move. The very simple stuff. I took that, I think, summer between 5th grade and 6th grade. So a very long time ago for me now. And I also dabbed into 3ds Max about halfway through middle school, the end of middle school. And that would be 3D modeling and texturing. So something like this is what it would look like in the program, and then end up with the lighting and the texturing. And then a lot of, it's hard to see because it's so small, but these have imperfections in them. So you make the objects perfect, and then you kind of give them their imperfection to give them life. So yeah, game designer. That's what I found out I wanted to be. So I'm 15 going on 16. Sweet, sweet 16. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to drive. That was the main scary thing with having a sinus infection surgery. So I had a sinus infection that went untreated for a couple weeks, and it got pretty bad pretty quick. I had to have surgery up here near the prefrontal cortex, which is why I had the link up here. I don't know if it'll go to it or not. And I don't know if I want it to mess up the slide stuff. It has to do with decision-making, personality stuff, and it led to future diagnoses that I would be diagnosed with later. And the last one being borderline personality disorder, which is how I learned to focus on myself instead of everything else around me. I think everything that happened to me just made me more sensitive to where like I wanted to understand people more than caring about understanding myself. And I've the past few years been really honing in on what I could bring to make everything better, including myself. I often forget that. Matt knows that from our talks yesterday. So yeah, relationships, especially close ones, become extremely difficult for me because I'm so sensitive. Where focus goes, energy flows. So that was one of the quotes up there. I don't know if I got to read, but I really liked it too. So my mom had recommended to me after many, many years of struggle and trying different jobs. I mean, I've worked factory jobs. I've been a housekeeper before. The delivery driver for pizza shops is probably the one that I had the longest, probably because of the freedom that you get from it. But she was like, why don't you try repairing stuff down the road? And I remember sitting down, getting a book, I think it's called The Art of Impossible. I didn't get too far in it, but he had us write, and us as in readers, as if I know all the other readers, he said to write down the things that you're curious about. And one of the things I was curious about that I never really dove into because it just seemed so overwhelming to me was how these devices work. It just seemed to me like, oh, that's so far out there. There's no way I'm going to do that. I've been focused on the software and making a game and the art that how in the world am I going to traverse a landscape like that? That's just so big. So after some management issues, I think that's the nicest way to put it, they kind of nudged me out the door, and I was like, why? And they didn't have good reasons. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to look for somewhere else. Well, can we do anything to get you to stay? Well, yeah, you could have not done the thing, and then I could have maybe stayed and tried harder. But when you want somebody to have more responsibility and no extra pay, less time with your family, it's kind of time for me to say, no, I'm going to try somewhere else. So I did that, and I actually worked with a family of Russians, which is really, really interesting for me to say, because I did not think that I would be on that road at all. Dobre utro is good morning in Russian. Dobre ranuk is good morning in Ukrainian. So that was fun. Around this time, I finally bought the business name because I looked at all of these texts saying, can you fix these devices? You've been doing it a while. I finally bought the business name while I was working with them, and they helped me a lot to figure out a bunch of stuff. And what I found funny about that is that, is anybody in here like a gamer to the point where they remember popular ones back in the day? Isaiah? Do you notice the date? Do you know what the significance of that is? Because I had no idea when I bought the business name, and I think this is a really big deal. It's when Halo 2 came out. Wow. That blew my mind. Right. And just for clarification, and then the other reason that I said the thing about we're all working together is that Halo 2's numbers, the game sold 2.4 million copies in its first 24 hours and a total of 8.46 billion. And I think this is all just in the US. But there's another slide, it's probably later on. It talks about how big these teams are and how many different cultures work together on one thing for the whole world to enjoy. I'm obsessed with that. I want to know what kind of harmony, so from the family scale to the business scale, how in the world do people do that? How do you get people to get along, let alone make something that the world enjoys for decades? That just, like I said, obsessed. So the J&J Games in Repair stands for Junction. It's the one place everybody can be themselves in a way that they feel at home to the community, find a healthy way. Obviously, it stands for me, but I wanted people to know too that I have multiple friends with the letter J in them, and we've all talked about doing something. So I thought putting a J there just was natural. If it doesn't go to me, it has to go to somebody with a J. I'm sorry, that's the cutoff. The other one was Jesus. I feel like this, it might seem small to some people, but to me, the timing of all of this, I couldn't do that. When I found out about the Halo like timing of all that, that was like I was delivering one day, and my brother's friend from work said, "Hey, have you looked at this mod that makes you able to play the servers for Halo 2 even better than you could before?" And that's when I found out the date. So I think the whole divine timing, I can't ignore that. A really important part that I feel I'm in this position for is that WHO, the World Health Organization, claimed gaming as a disorder, an addiction. And I actually agreed with them at the time because there are so many people that ignore the things in daily life. I know it's hard to read. So it's defined in the 11th revision of International Classification of Diseases as a pattern of gaming behavior, digital gaming or video gaming, characterized by impaired control over gaming, increasing priority given to gaming over other activities to extend that gaming takes precedence over other interests and daily activities. So long story short, the thing we mentioned earlier, or I guess I didn't read that, I think disassociation is association with something else. And that was something that hit me this morning while I was writing a lot of this stuff. I'm sure you guys have heard me say that. Chains of habit are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be broken. When somebody is going from an addiction or something that they're used to something new, it is an extremely fragile process. That's something I want to nurture with our business. So if you don't sacrifice for what you want becomes the sacrifice. I thought that was another important one to throw in there. And then the last one, there's nothing more exciting than knowing the world is crazier than you are. I think it's true. There's always something new happening. There's always something that pushes that envelope. So use that as a way to be comfortable with doing what you want to do. So these are examples of game development. This is recent. So I'm making a Fortnite map. And without saying too much about it, because nobody's done the thing that I want to do in Fortnite, that is an example of before and after. So that's just a couple of assets up here turned into like a nighttime sneaky environment. That's all I'm going to say. This I found incredible. When I was going through the Operation Hope on Huntington, I drew this and thought, wow, another mind blow. If I'm worried about entertainment and health, I know that balance. And that's super important. But that blew me away. So unintended, useful, reflective of our passion and core values. I want everybody, like, I say this all the time too. Gamers are smart and they are passionate. And if you know how to hone those two things, who knows what can happen? Crazy stuff maybe, but good things. It has to be in there somewhere. So this is just like a cherry on top. I don't know. Does anybody know who that is? Okay, good. Yep. So it's Diary of a CEO, right? Yep. I thought this was funny. I thought you guys noticed that it's the guest. So I put the background in there. I was so lucky that Matthew McConaughey. So being the director, pulling the director part back into it, this is how big I feel like things could be. It's a Diary of a Joe Viro. I thought that was funny. And the acronym is Doge. So I thought that was funny too. To be continued. That's it. That's all I had prepared for about an hour over a couple days.